Hello, I'm John Early, and today...
You don't have to whisper.
Hello, I'm John Early, and today we're gonna learn about Martha Mitchell. Martha the Mouth. It's the late 60s, it's the early 70s. Martha Mitchell is the hottest gossip around DC, okay? She was married to John Mitchell, head of the CRP, the Committee to Re-elect the President. Great. She could hear everything because her husband is directly working for the president. Tricky Dick. She had the hottest goss in DC. So Martha is like calling the local DC news reporters and being like, y'all, we got a story, y'all. So-and-so's doing this. This person's doing this. Martha's favorite reporter was Helen Thomas of the United Press International, y'all. She's like, you're not gonna believe it, y'all. So-and-so over here did that over there. So if that doesn't paint a picture, I don't know what will. Moving on. So, smash cut to June 17th, 1972. Martha and John go to a huge fundraiser in Beverly Hills for the Republican Party. Martha is like, oh, hey, there's John Wayne. There's Ronald Reagan. There's Nancy Reagan. Suddenly, bring, John gets a call. He's like, hello? And they're like, someone has broken in to the Watergate Hotel. And he was like, and that's where the story ends.
Wow, we'll never know what happened.
Yeah, the end.
They broke in and that was it.
Thank you so much. I'm gonna go. Okay, so the next morning, John Mitchell issues a statement. He's like, this has nothing to do with the CRP. This is just like a fun side burglary. I'm so sorry. The press was like, what about this guy, John McCord? And because he was one of the burglars. So John Mitchell was like, what's up? What was the question? And they said, what I'm saying is John McCord was in the CRP. And this again is fact. He goes, not only is John McCord, of course, completely a member of the CRP, he was also Martha's head security guard. And then it starts to dawn on John Mitchell. He's like, if Martha finds out that John McCord was part of the Watergate break-in, she's gonna spill the goddamn beans. So here's what he does. He takes her to the hotel. He's like, Martha, you stay in LA, honey.
Bill Clinton.
You're right, that was Bill. Martha, you stay in LA. Okay. So he's like, I'm gonna go to DC just for fun. You stay out here, you enjoy the sun. He goes back to DC to do damage control. But first, he then has alerted his security team, specifically Steve King. He's like, make sure that you keep her in the hotel and make sure that she sees no newspapers. Smash cut to Martha Mitchell goes to the front desk of her hotel and she's like, can I have a copy of the LA Times? And the person's like, yeah. And then she opens the LA Times. Of course, every paper is running the Watergate story. She sees John McCord's name and she's like, and then she calls Helen Thomas and she's like, something fishy's going on, baby. Before she knows it, John and Steve King, whatever, not John. My name's John, and I'm complicit in a way. We can, yeah. It's my fault. Okay, so Steve King rips the phone out of her hands. Helen Thomas heard Martha say, now you get away from me. Then the line goes dead. The phone's hung up, and this is her first moment of like, uh-oh, you are my captor?
God bless you.
Hold on. Something is wrong. Okay, so she's like, I'm gonna sneak out and I'm gonna go into the next room and I'm gonna get the phone. I need to call Helen Thomas again. So I'm gonna sneeze again.
Please.
Oh God. So she starts to shimmy, y'all, across the side of the building to go to her neighboring hotel room. Truly, like, badass. But Steve King grabs her, physically, like, restrains her. He calls a motherfucking doctor. The doctor says, hold her down, y'all. The doctor injects tranquilizers in her ass, Derek.
No, thank you.
They literally fully sedate her. She's basically being held hostage so that she wouldn't speak to reporters. So she is like kept in her hotel for a week.
You spin? Sorry.
1 week and you looked at me. Sorry. There's no way Common Sense is gonna pay for the bare naked ladies' rights.
That's true.
They could though.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
So she's in the hotel for like a week. And she's finally released. So she goes back to the Westchester Country Club. She bursts in and she's like, I'm being held prisoner by the GOP, y'all. And John Mitchell's like, sorry, y'all. She's a little. So Martha at this point is like, okay, I'm being like silenced here. So she calls Helen Thomas. I know that you've been taught that Deep Throat broke the story of Watergate. Okay. It was Martha Mitchell.
Whoa.
So Helen Thomas runs Martha's story, but of course, as usual, and still today, it's relegated to the women's section, which is like how to make a Jell-O mold, touch his taint if you want to make him. And then like the Republican Party, they are to blame for breaking into Watergate, and everyone's like, so no one cared, but Nixon catches wind of all this. And he's like, this is not some frivolous bitch. He says to John Mitchell, you need to read. Oh, God. Okay. He was like, keep an eye on her. And thus begins this like era of like, for like, it's like 2 years of making her seem crazy. Richard Nixon tells the press she's an alcoholic. So then what happens is Nixon pays psychologists to say she's crazy. So Martha's like, I'm telling y'all the truth. John McCord was my lead security guard, y'all. We, in fact, developed a relationship much like the relationship portrayed in Guarding Tess, starring Nicolas Cage and I want to say Shirley MacLaine. And they're like, honey, you're crazy. And this created a very famous thing now that psychologists use, which is called the Martha Mitchell effect, which is when you're misdiagnosed as being delusional when what you're actually saying is just the truth.
Whoa.
Yeah. So 2 years later, Woodward and Bernstein blow the lid off the story. And thus John Mitchell is sentenced to prison. And Nixon resigns on TV in 1974. Martha Mitchell, she's laying back on her couch exactly like I'm doing right now. Okay? She's like martini in hand. And she's like, I told y'all. Martha dies in 1976. But at her funeral, and this is so beautiful, at her funeral, they make a sculpture out of white chrysanthemums that says Martha was right. It's so punk rock. She's the reason we know about Watergate.
Cheers, John.
Congrats. What a fun time.
The best.
To Martha.